Hello folks, this is Gary Morgan from Wild Game Dynasty here, and appreciate you checking in with us. And actually, hey, we're looking outside today. Of course, I'm here with a great friend of mine. You'll see him in a few minutes. His name is John Jones. He's a professional guide. He guides in a variety of different species here in Michigan and other states, but today it's Turkey Talk, and we're doing a series of I would say videos that are going to show all of us how to become a little better turkey hunter. Hey, without further ado, appreciate you checking in with Wild Game Dynasty. Our next fella, and you'll appreciate him, John Jones. And hey, I guess he's in the studio here, and we'll ask him to take my place, and I think you'll appreciate him a lot more than me. All right, take care, enjoy.
I do appreciate you calling me up and inviting me up to do this. What we're going to do is we're kind of going to go back to the basics of the person who's really just wants to get into turkey hunting. Calling, most people will start out with a friction call of some type, either a pot call or a box call. That's probably the easiest to try to get proficient with. So we're going to start with what I'd call Turkey Basic Calling 101. This is a pot call. We have different surfaces, anything from slate to glass, various ceramics. All of them create different tones. Some are easier to use than others. Probably for the person starting out, a slate surface is the most forgiving, probably even the most popular. So I would look to purchase a call. Probably all the manufacturers are somewhat equal. You're going to have to start somewhere. So if you have a favorite company that produces game calls that you like, pick one of those up. Most likely, it will come with some kind of striker. You have a couple of different strikers here. They're basically different materials, different wood, and they create their own tone. So you got some variations. You'll want some strikers. Usually the calls will come with a striker, at least one, but as you acquire calls, or if you really like your call, you can buy additional strikers, which is just like having multiple calls because they create their own sound. One thing I would encourage everyone to get is what's called a conditioning stone. It's something I discovered probably 20 years into my turkey hunting career, and I wish I'd had it from the beginning, because the one thing about a slate call, it does require some conditioning, and that's what's called you're allowing the call to work. It does have some minute surface scratches or abrasions. This conditioning stone actually roughs the surface up so you get more cuts, more edges, more grooves that provide the friction you need for the call to work. So most calls, if you have a spot on the call where it might attach to a lanyard or something, use that as a reference. Take your call with a magic marker, put you some kind of mark on it that's easy to recognize, and what it does, it helps orientate the call to a position that allows you to bring the striker across the surface in the appropriate direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the call here with the conditioning stone. I'm going to position my fingers where I want them to be regularly when I use the call. I'm going to move the conditioning stone up and down. I'm making grooves along the surface of that call. I don't know if you can see them, but I know you hear the noise I'm making. That's making the grooves or conditioning the stone to being able to use the call. Very valuable tool. Well, we're going to get a striker out, there is some work to be done with the striker. What happens is when you rub them over the surface so long, they actually glaze over a little bit. Get you some sandpaper, any type of abrasive, emery cloth or whatever, and take the tip in a circular motion against that abrasive. Even a scratch pad will work. Kind of clean that up so you're back down to a wood surface, like so. So now I got my call, I've conditioned my call, I've conditioned my striker. We're going to go back to the position that's going to call, let's call it home position. That's where you want the call to sit in your hand. You're holding it with your fingertips in a light manner. You're not squeezing it. You're just holding it. What you want to do is put the striker in your hand as if you're writing with it, the normal writing position. Also, you're holding that lightly, not squeezing it for dear life. So what you're going to do is you're going to place the striker on this surface at a slight angle away from you. You're going to draw the striker back across that surface, keep in contact with the surface to create the sound that will make the turkey sounds that you're trying to accomplish. What we're going to do is we're going to concentrate basically on about 4 calls that, if you can master those, will work on any turkey, in any state, and any variety of turkey. They all speak the same language. The first call most people will learn. It's a 1-note sound called a cluck. It's a single individual note. You put your striker on your surface at an angle. Keep a slight down force on the call. Pull the tip of the striker toward you. You want to hear 1 note. Don't lift the striker up. Keep it on the call surface. Every time you do that, you do get a slight variation of the note itself. That's absolutely perfect. When you pick your striker up and you reposition it onto the surface to do your cluck again, you will be in a different position, a slight different force, a slight different angle, and the note you produce will be slightly different. But as long as it's the single note, that's the desired sound that you're looking to accomplish. That is the cluck. That's a sound that a hen turkey makes throughout the day. It's literally done hundreds of times every day. The next call we're going to go with is what's called a purr. This is a comforting sound that turkeys make. It's hard to hear particularly unless the birds are very close to you, because it's such a light in tone note. The positioning of the call, the positioning of your striker is exactly the same. The slight angle, you pull the striker in a motion towards you and try to pull your striker somewhere in the range of a 1/2 inch to maybe a little bit more. You're not trying to make a 1 note, you're trying to make a long note. And the vibration of your striker on the surface over that inch creates the sound, or 1/2 inch, creates the sound that you're trying to accomplish. This is your purr. I'm moving that striker toward me. All I'm doing is twisting my wrist in this position. This is a call that is widely used when a turkey is in close range, and especially if a person is a little unsecure of their calling ability. You can get loud with a cluck, you can get loud with a yelp, you can actually get too loud. And if you're not comfortable with what you're doing and you've got a bird working, he's certainly within sight, and you're a little afraid of don't know what to do, and you don't want to mess it up and you're afraid you may, the purr is what you're going to fall back on. That's the call that he hears. He's used to hearing it, your gobbler is. It's light, and if there's any kind of wind, he may just vaguely hear it. But that's going to let him know where you are and to come looking for you. This is your purr. The next call we're going to work on is what's called a yelp. It will be a louder call than the two previous that we've done. It's probably the call that you use the most throughout the day because it's the call that you're projecting out for the toms to hear you. You hold the slate in the same position. You put your striker onto the surface in the same position. What you're accomplishing here, there's a couple of variations to the way you can do it. I personally make a counterclockwise circle about from 12 to 6 o'clock. So about a half circle counterclockwise. Some people just essentially use the same position as a purr, a straight line, but they go longer than a half inch. That's a straight line yelp. I prefer the semicircle. Either one's correct, it's just whichever one is easier for you to accomplish. We'll go back. Your striker rests on your call surface, a slight angle. You're bringing the call back, the striker back towards your body. We're making a semicircle, and this is your yelp. Now you notice there's some variations in tone. Every time you reposition that striker to make your semicircle, there is a slight minute change in angle, pressure, and you're not coming back onto the same exact needle point, on the call. And the variations is exactly what's necessary to make it believable. If you sounded 100% alike every time you did that, a turkey eventually would go, that's not normal. It's a little more advanced call. It's called cutting. It's a locator call, just like a yelp is really used throughout the day as a locator. When you yelp really loud, you're expecting to hear a gobble. That's what you're trying to accomplish. Cutting provides the same purpose. You position your striker against the call surface, just like all the other calls we've mentioned. What we're going to do is we're going to create clucks, but we're going to do them at different speeds. We're going to do some fast ones, we're going to do slow ones, we're going to do longer ones, we're going to do short ones. We're going to put them together and try to make the clucks sound excited. and that's called cutting. When a bird is excited and wanting to be bred, she's going to give out this, hey, I'm ready. And that's what the cutting is. So we're going to start out, everything being the same. Position your striker onto the surface exactly the same. Here is your cluck. And we're going to transition it into cutting. Now you notice me moving the call around. In the wild, what you might do, if you have no reason to believe the bird is looking at you, you may actually move your call in different positions to project the sound out to make it appear that the animal is moving or walking. It sounds, the sound's here, well no, it's there, it's moving. That adds a lifelike part to your calling. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the cutting. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some excited cutting, and we're going to throw a yelp into it. This here would be a very classic, you're walking through the woods, you haven't heard a bird in a while, you're blind calling, you're hoping to hear a gobble. So this might be a normal sequence of how you would start this out. Yelp added at the end. Cutting. Yelp. And then listen. I added the cutting in front of the yelp. You could do it just the opposite. The yelp. Either way, there's no wrong. You can do it in either segment, one in front of the other. Those calls right there, the cluck, the purr, the yelp, and cutting, are the basic of turkey hunting. Any state that I've hunted, I've used some other calls, but that is the bread and butter. You can, it sounds overwhelming, maybe at first to someone who's starting out absolutely at a beginning level. Use the resources that are out there, YouTube and various other things that can help you. What I'm going to do is a little bit of calling here, and please feel free to look back at what we have online here at our website, Wild Game Dynasty, and just play it as much as you want. And these are the sounds that you want to make with a slate call. So I'm just kind of going to go through them, and you can hear them, and you know a spot you can go and listen to them and play along with what I'm doing with your call. Get your slate call out and work with me. So this may be a little boring to some, but to the person starting out, this is really what they need to hear. They need to hear the continued sound, multiples, so that they can play along with it. They're playing an instrument along with you till they get comfortable knowing that what they're doing is correct. So we're going to do a bunch of clucks, single note, purr, you can double them up even when you get good at it. We're going to yell. Don't also, one thing, don't do your drawing of your call more than 3 to 5 or 6 times. you wouldn't want to get out there and go 10 or 12 times in a row. Keep it, especially at the beginning of your calling, keep it in numbers of 3 to 6, like this. 1. 6 might be even a little bit much, but that's more normal. That's about where you want to be. And last is your cutting. Two clucks, 2 clucks, 3 clucks, 2 clucks, 3 clucks. Yelp it. That sequence right there, if done anywhere in the U.S., will work for turkey hunting. It's just a question if you're close enough to a bird to hear you and is willing to respond. That's kind of the basics of the slate call. I hope you enjoyed this and look forward to seeing you out in the turkey woods. Good luck.